Memories of Bob Backlund.
Bob, oh man. Bob, I remember him in 1975. It was when I first went to Florida. And again, Bob was, pretty young like I was. I mean, I was 19. And I remember one night I'm staying in an apartment. It was like a studio. And Bob, my very first night meeting Bob, I met him at the wrestling, and we shook hands, talked a little bit. He was so nice, such a nice man, nice guy. And then that night, I just come back from the trip, and all of a sudden, I hear, my buddy, open the bed. Oh, Rick, listen, he had his bicycle with him. I had an argument with my wife. You mind if I sleep here? I'll just sleep. Oh, sure, come on in. I offered him my couch. No. He slept on the floor. I didn't want to sleep on the couch. I don't know. So, to this day, we talked about last year. In fact, I seen him. We talked about that. We laughed, and he has such a great wife, Gorky, but that night they had an argument. And he came over and slept on the floor in my apartment. That was my first time I met Bob. And then I met him throughout Atlanta in 1978. And then, of course, when I came to WWF in 1980, he was a champion. But he was the same guy that I met in 75, didn't change for a bit. Same guy, never had an ego about him or a big head or whatever, He was a great guy. And then I worked with him, and I remember how strong he was. I mean, he was, I had a figure for like on his arm, and he just lifted me up like nothing. I mean, this guy is so strong. And, a little story. We were in Florida. We were in this bar. And again, I just met him, for a couple of weeks. And we're in this bar, and it's like truck drivers who used to go there. The name of the bar was Deep South, so you go in there, it's like topless dancers there. I mean, it's kind of rough bar. And we're talking, and this guy comes over. We're like four of us. Jerry Briscoe, I think, was there. And so this guy comes over, a big trucker, says, "Hey, you guys are wrestlers. You want to arm wrestle, And so Bob said, no, sorry. Just, in this one nice way, So the guy comes right, then he comes, "Hey, come on, you guys are scared or something. Come on, you fucking guys." No, please, sir, just having a beer, very respectful, and never lose temper. So after the third time now, I can see it in his eye, well, okay, he says, okay, well, arm wrestle, you want to arm wrestle? Okay, well, arm wrestle, and then after that, you'll leave, sure, Yeah, okay, yeah. So now everybody's, this guy's a pretty big guy, and so he puts his arm out, and man, like nothing, Bob goes like this, boom, boom, banging the guy's knuckles on the, so, okay, you gonna leave us alone now? Gonna leave us alone? The guy's going like this, oh, okay, sir, and this guy, yeah, man, that was the end of it. But Bob was so strong, and yet didn't let on, never played like the bully or nothing. A guy that I have most respect for.
Memories of Hulk Hogan back then.
Oh, Hulk, yeah. Well, I remember I first met Hulk in 1980 here. He was just leaving, and I worked against him. He was a heel. I worked against him in Pittsburgh, and we had a good match, fun. And then I didn't, and he was leaving. I just came in, and he was leaving. I met him a little bit. And then when I went to Minneapolis, as soon as I walked in the office, my first day, I went to meet Vern Gagne, and Hulk was there. So, we shook hands, and I told him I was just getting in that day. And he said, "Look, until you find your apartment," he says, "why don't you come and stay with me, And I said, "Oh, that's nice, thanks, And then I went, and I went and stayed with him in his apartment. I took Beefcake's room. He had just left, so then he offered me. He said, "Look," he said, "why don't you stay here instead of taking an apartment?" So we were roommates for a few months. That was fun. Back then I couldn't. I was with Hulk, and he was doing fantastic. AWA were selling out every night. I mean, he was like big. Big star. I mean, that was just before the Rocky thing, and in fact, I was with him before that, and throughout this, when he met Rocky, I mean, Stallone, I was with him. And, again, this is another guy that never changed. I mean, he was always the same, became a big star and all that. And I always say the same. But what I remember most of him was his discipline, his training and dieting and this and that. He was a really disciplined guy. And I think the reason, also one of the reasons I always thought that he became a big star and got that instant connection with the fans, that the fans could feel that from him, that he was a guy that would stop and say hello to anybody and were friendly, and he was like, he didn't think of himself as a big star.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.